Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the channel. My name is Arnold, also known as MurderofBirds, and this is the first RWBY video that I am uploading to the channel as a kickoff to the RWBY hiatus following Volume 7's conclusion. That wrapped up this past weekend for non-first members. The entire volume is officially out for the general public, and this is a really cool community event that me and my girlfriend Kaylin, also known as Collaction, she's a YouTuber who does videos on RWBY, Miraculous Ladybug, a bunch of different anime and stuff like that. She and I spearheaded this community event in the last week that has gained a lot of traction in the community and is something that I feel a lot of people are really talking about and getting hyped and excited about, especially based on everyone's perception and impressions on Volume 7 after its initial release, and that is the Oscars. Not to be confused with the film ceremony, but in fact the Ozcars. So it's basically a pun between Ozpin, Oscar, and the Oscars, like the award ceremony. But basically it is a community event of a RWBY Volume 7 award show where we're going to be breaking down categories and topics on Volume 7 and having the community vote on and vocalizing their opinions on what they thought were the best points and parts of a volume, being fight scenes, music, individual character moments, supporting characters and things of that nature. And the turnout has been really great. So we did this immediately after the volume wrapped up for first members, and then following that we kind of reestablished it out for non-first members. Now that the volume is officially out for the public, we have over 5,000 applicants. So this video is kind of a call to action to my community, because we initially spread the word through our individual communities, our Discord servers, our YouTube community tabs, our Twitter feeds, and she also posted a thread of it over on the RWBY subreddit to kind of get those people in that community involved. But this is kind of like the last ditch effort to kind of reach out to as many people as possible. If you have not seen any of those ways of getting involved in it, I will leave a link in the description, because this video is going to be dedicated to me going through the polls myself and answering all of the individual categories and posting my votes, because we are less than 48 hours from when I'm recording this when the polls will be closed. So if you want, you can pull up a tab. We can go through this poll process together. You guys can see all of the categories, what you guys can choose from it. Since me and her also did the entire process together, I can give you guys an idea of the thought process when it came to surveying all of the characters, all of the topics, all of the categories, and the nominees that we decided to choose, because I know there's a lot of confusion for some people of characters they were expecting to be in a category and they weren't. This also is not official at all, unfortunately. I would love it if Rooster Teeth did something like this official on their website or on their Twitter feed, or did their own individual Google Doc poll. But again, like I said, this is a fan submitted thing. This is something me and my girlfriend did, and we're kind of reaching and expanding it out to the community. Like I said, over 5,000 people attended, and it's absolutely crazy. But we're going to be switching over, and like I said, if you guys have not voted yet, you guys can still get your votes in. Link will be in the description. I'll be going through it on video here. The polls officially close on Tuesday, February 11th at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's submitted. Basically, you can submit one vote per Google account. So essentially, if you have a YouTube account and you're watching this video, you're kind of eligible. However, make sure your decisions are finalized, and it is a very rigorous decision process. One thing that I love more than anything about this entire function is that a lot of people were saying how it was very difficult to narrow everything in a specific category down to one definitive fact, because it says something about your individual take on the volume, but then in the grand scheme of things, how the community felt about the volume as a whole now that it's initially wrapped up. But with all that said, we're going to jump into it. I hope you guys enjoy this idea. I'm going to go through the entire process with you guys, so this might be a very lengthy and expansive and maybe informative video if you guys haven't seen it or haven't taken part yourselves. And if you have, at the very least, you'll see where I thought about this volume. But with all that said, let's jump into it. All right, guys, so we are here. This is the Google Doc form for the Oscars. RWBY fans, vote for the best of RWBY Volume 7. And so I have the camera right here. I have the voting process, so you guys will see all of my decisions. There's quite a bit for us to get through here, so I'm not going to waste any time. The first thing I'm going to do, little fun fact, I can't stand white screens anymore. I actually have a built-in dark mode for any websites or pages that that I use that don't have dark mode enabled. And unfortunately, in 2020, if you don't have dark mode on your website, I can't support you. White screens are so incredibly straining and harsh on my eyes now because I'm so used to it for everything else. YouTube has it, Facebook just implemented it, Discord has it, Twitch has it. So yeah, so the screen might look a little different for those of you who don't have it implemented, but if anything, it's very much going to be the same. But here it is. So there are a ton of categories in this voting process, everything that you can kind of expect that is akin to that of the film award ceremony, the Oscars. Also something that I'm much more familiar with being the video game awards. We have a lot of different processes, and that's why it's a very strenuous and a very thought-provoking you know, a process of elimination to go through, because there are so many aspects of this volume. You know, overall episode, male character, female character, voice actors, voice actresses, vocalists, music, new characters, semblances, and a bunch of other things. And we tried to do the very best we could at showcasing and highlighting a bunch of different moments and a bunch of different scenes that felt like everyone was having a moment. Like you could basically have an opinion on every factor of the volume. Now, before I jump into this, I want to discuss the elephant in the room, because the probably like the number one response that we've gotten from the 5,000 applicants is, why isn't X character in this category? Why is X character in this category but not Y character? And the number one answer that I can give is, we didn't want this poll to just be a popularity contest, right? I'm going to use Blake and or Yang as an example, because that one is one that was actually very heavily brought up. Now, here's the thing. Kaylin wanted to have everything on the table. She wanted to have everyone have a fair shot, and she wanted people to kind of go through the process and pick whatever character they felt represented that category. Now, I was very much against that, because looking at the Oscars, looking at, you know, the Grammys, looking at the video game awards, not everyone is a nominee. And that is unfortunate to say, but when it comes to RWBY in and of itself as well, not every character contributes on the same level, right? And again, I'm using Blake and Yang as an example because they were some of the characters that were brought up and mentioned because they are the main characters, right? Team RWBY might be the main characters of this show, but they were, in my opinion, they were not really like the stars of this volume, the same way that Ironwood was, that Winter was, that Weiss was, that Penny was, you know, despite the fact that they are the lead characters of the show because the show is called RWBY. So, and here's how I compare it. If this was volume 6, Blake and Yang would probably be in a lot more categories, right? Their conflict with each other, their conflict with Adam, and like the fact that they both had like volume 6 was their volume. Unfortunately, volume 7 wasn't really much of any one of Team RWBY's, with the exception of Weiss, because this is her home and she had a lot of she had a great hand in terms of she had a great hand in terms of kind of helping to overturn things, you know, with characters like Watts and stuff like that, and her mother's interaction and her father's interaction and things like that. So that was the biggest thing. I didn't want people choosing a character simply because it was their favorite character. I wanted it to be more on the merits and on the grounds of, hey, this character is in this category because they put forth because they basically were relevant to that degree from this volume. So that's ultimately the big reason. Now, again, this is, you know, none of this is really quote unquote objective. Kaylin and I are simply fans like everybody else. It's just the fact that we wanted to be as objective as possible when it came to the characters that we put on the list. And I'll be honest, there are still some characters that we put that on the poll that I'm not completely 100% agree with, but it's just the fact that we did the best we could. We wanted this to be a fun, engaging community event more than anything than simply and this is all subjective, right? Like, just because this is our deciding, you know, standings for everything, that doesn't mean that's definitive. That doesn't mean that your character isn't the character that you feel like should have been on the list. It's just, it is what it is. So, and more than anything, we just wanted people to have fun. So, with all of that said, let's get into it. The first category here is best episode. So it's episodes 1 through 13 rather. And for me, I think my favorite episode of the volume is Gravity. Volume 7, episode 11, Gravity. We had the fight scene between Watts and Ironwood. We had the the 3v1 with Tyrion versus Crow, Clover, and Robin. We had the turning point of Ironwood after the fact of, like, he was on the bat, you know what I mean? He was questionable at the beginning of the volume, and then, you know, he trusted people. He trusted Robin. He trusted Team RWBY. Everyone was on the up and up. You know, they just helped Mantle out. Everyone was back in, you know, everyone, you know, Watts was stopped. Tyrion was stopped. Things were looking good. And then Cinder came in, swooped in, and kind of just brought that fear back for Ironwood and took it to a whole nother level to where Ironwood essentially was then perceived as an antagonist for the heroes. So there was that. There was, and then like also the setup for the Aesops overall. It was just a very well written chapter overall. And also we had like the new song Hero by Caleb Hiles, and I think that's like the #1 song of the volume that most people are looking forward to. So I think as an individual episode, I think this is one of, if not the best episode of the series. And so that's where my deciding vote comes into play. I also think episode 12 is a really good follow-up contender. At that point, it really just comes down to your preference. It could easily be any of these episodes depending on what it gave you as a fan. So for me, I'm gonna go with Gravity. So this is a tough one. Best voice actor in a leading role. So we have Jason Liebrecht, who does Crow, Jason Rose, who does Ironwood. We have 3 Jasons in here, actually. Jason Rose, Jason Liebrecht, and Jason Douglas, who does Jacques. Neith Ohm for Ren, Aaron Dismuke for Oscar, Christopher Sabat for Watts, and Josh Gorell for Tyrion. Now, this is incredibly difficult for me because there are so many different forms of merit for each one of these characters, or each one of these voice actors. First and foremost, the elephant in the room, Jason Liebrecht. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right, by the way, but Jason Liebrecht came into Volume 7 having to fill some of the biggest shoes in the role for Crow, obviously due to Rooster Teeth cutting ties with Vic Mignogna following RWBY Volume 6. And I honestly want to say he absolutely nailed it, right? I just watched the entirety of Volume 7 yesterday with a friend of mine who hadn't seen anything of Volume 7. The last time he watched RWBY was when Volume 6 ended last year. And he did not know that Crow had a different voice actor until I told him when we finished watching it. He was like, wait, what, really? Like and that's the thing too. You really, I honestly think for the most part, you would not be able to really pick, or the vast majority of people would not be able to pick up on the fact that Crow's voice actor changed between volumes, because it's very spot on, and in some cases it excels what we've gotten of Crow so far, because Crow is in a very different element with the fact that he's not really drinking as much, he's not as aggressive as much, and he kind of has a very normalized personality, you know what I mean, for everything that surrounds him with it when it comes to his bad luck or his drinking habits or whatever. And I think that calmer, more tranquil version of Crow translated really well to Jason's delivery of him. And like I said, I think it's even more crazier of the fact that this could have easily been something that was talked about, you know, from the start of the volume, but like after the first episode, you know what I mean, like it just meshed well with people. I haven't really heard many people mentioning anything of his performance because it's so ingrained into who Crow is now as a character. And so that's what makes it really difficult for me, because I really think that Jason, as a voice acting lead role like actor, I think he displayed the most impression. Like he's the one that impressed me the most. Ironwood, like Jason Rose, I also like, to me it's like it's so tough, man. It's so tough when it comes to things like this, because like Aaron Dismuke did such a phenomenal job with Oscar. Oscar developed and grew so much this volume, and like Jason Rose and Jason Douglas, you know, Ironwood and Watts respectively. I'm sorry, Ironwood and Jacques respectively, reprising their roles years after their characters were introduced and established during like Volume 4, for example, was like the last time we really saw either one of those characters. And like bringing them back, they kind of nailed their roles in even more finesse now than ever. It's a very difficult choice overall. You know, Tyrion is great, Ren was great, Watts, of course, Christopher Sabat, a legend. I'm gonna have to give it to Jason Liebrecht. I'm gonna have to give it to the voice actor of Crow. I just think it's a massive leap of talent that he was able to fill in the role, and it to just be such a smooth transition for him, episode in and episode out. And yes, there will be those naysayers. Yes, there will be those Vic stands. But at the end of the day, I think looking at the product as a whole, you can't deny that Jason didn't deliver and didn't, in some cases, match or excel Crow to the degree of what we've gotten him the entire volume. And again, it's so hard because like Jason Rose did an amazing job, Aaron Dismuke did an amazing job, especially for those characters that shined through this volume. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. Also, I do hope you guys don't mind that I'm kind of going through my thought process for each one of these, because I know there's a lot of categories and it's going to take a while to get through, but hopefully it's entertaining. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And more than anything, if you guys did vote or if you didn't vote, let me know what your thoughts were on this entire process, what you guys voted for in the comment section as well, just because I feel like there's not, you know what I mean, we're all gonna find out the results together after Tuesday. So and the results, like I mentioned too, or I didn't mention, the results will also be posted on Kaylin's channel, and she'll probably also make Twitter polls and things of that nature, or Twitter threads and updates on social media for whoever for the winners of these individual categories. All right, so here we have Best Voice Actress in a Leading Role. Now this is one of the roles that I was referring to when I was talking about Blake and Yang. Me and Kaylin were going back and forth on this. In all honesty, I felt that Yang and Blake, I don't want to say didn't deserve to be in this category, but I felt like they didn't need to be in the category. Not necessarily the fact that they didn't deserve to be in here. They are lead roles, but when you look at this volume as a whole, Winter, Penny, Robin, Cinder towards the end, Weiss overall, Ruby initially, you know what I mean? I feel like Ruby's role was kind of transferred over to Oscar after a while when it came to the decision making and talking to Ironwood and kind of coming to the conclusion of trusting each other and working together. I really think Blake and Yang didn't excel that much, you know what I mean? I think the role that they played the most that was of any relevance this volume was the talk that they had in the truck regarding Adam and their decision to go against Ironwood's orders and tell Robin a bit of the truth with the Amity Communications Tower. That's it. Like, that's quite literally Blake and Yang in volume 7, and it's no fault of their own, you know what I mean? They excelled and had a lot of screen time, a lot of development. Their volume was last volume, not this one, and so I don't want anyone to think that I'm hating on them or whatever. I'm looking at it objectively, and I personally think Blake and Yang didn't really do much this volume. If you want to take their fights into consideration, they're all over the place, you know what I mean? Like, they shined when it came to fighting, but in terms of overall voice actresses, I really don't think Aaron or Barbara contributed as much as their, the other cat. Not really Aaron and Barbara, more so Blake and Yang in terms of relevance this volume. But Best Voice Actress, again, this comes down to the acting prowess of the characters. So let's see, Lindsay Jones, Cara Eberly, Elizabeth Maxwell, Sam Ireland, Taylor McNee, Christina V, Jessica Negri, Barbara Dunkelman, Aaron Zeck. Oh boy. Shit, man. Again, this is another tough one because, Christina V is debuting this volume for RWBY, playing the role as Robin Hale. I know she's very well known in other forms of media. She plays Velvet in Tales of Berseria. She plays Marinette in Miraculous Ladybug. And people know her from other forms of media. I had not known who she was until this volume, and I think she did a really great job as Robin Hill. Taylor McNee is another one because she is reprising the role of Penny, but the fact of the matter was, like, I did not think I'd ever hear or see Penny again in this show. So to get Penny back, it was really great to get, like, she kind of added so much more to Penny as a character just based on her performance and the fact that Penny was far more relevant this volume than she's ever been in the series. You know what I mean? Take Ruby Chibi into consideration with that as well. So these are all really tough nominations and choices. Elizabeth Maxwell, Sam Ireland killing it with their roles that they've always been doing for as long as they've been in here. I am going to give this one to Jessica Negri. I am not a big fan of Cinder. I think at this point it is no surprise to anyone. Cinder as a character is very shallow, very one-dimensional, a character who simply wants power. I don't know her motivations. I don't know why she's doing what she's doing. I don't know what she thinks she's gonna, I don't know what she aims to get out of any of this. She's just a character, and then she's not very fulfilling. You know what I mean? She loses every type of fight that she gets into, or every objective she goes for. She either needs help or she can't do it by, you know what I mean? Like, she's just a very unsavory character for me, and like, I really want more out of her on an emotional level, on a character development level, because I want to care about Cinder. I don't want to just be hating on her or whatever. So Cinder, I'm able to detach her completely from the performance that I was incredibly impressed by with Jessica this volume for Cinder. Her voice delivery, her line deliveries, you know what I mean? Like, and I refuse to starve. Like, her talking about being power hungry, wanting power, being hungry for it. The voice efforts that she did during the fight between Penny and Winter was really great. Like, I refuse to come this far to be beaten by some toy, and then she gets like wrecked by the Chimera's like fire attack. I think and again, it's very like, I think it's short but sweet. You know what I mean? Like, Cinder came into the picture like 3/4 of the way of this volume, and she kind of like really shined the last 2 chapters. So I'm gonna give that one to Jessica Negri more than any of these other characters or voice actors and actors. Like I said, I think everyone contributed, but that's just my personal pick. So definitely shout out to Jessica for that. Best actor in a supporting role. So here's the thing, all right? Because supporting role is a big factor here. Like, this was another one too. Like, people were asking, oh, why is Jean in this role but not Ren in this role? Or why is Jean in this role but not Nora in this role? What does it mean to be a supporting character? And to me, a supporting character is someone who still contributes but isn't, they basically kind of help to contribute the main characters, right? Ozpin supports Oscar. Whitley helped support the family dynamic of the Schnees, particularly with Winter. Not with Winter, particularly with Weiss and Willow. Mara with the Aesops and kind of his indifference with not wanting to fight Team RWBY. Clover with Crow. Pietro with Maria and Penny and Ruby and them. Some of these are a little questionable, I won't lie, like Flint Cole. I think Flint, we just decided to kind of throw these in because these were male characters, so like actors, and there weren't really many actors, and we already had put Ren in a previous category that we didn't want too many characters to have multiple slots in a nomination because we wanted it to be fair. We wanted every character to have a chance to shine. So for this role, I think it's going to be, for me, it's gonna be Pietro. Also, little fun fact, this is not Dave Fenoy's first dabble into RWBY. He actually voiced Dr. Merlot from the video game RWBY Grim Eclipse, which isn't really that relevant. It's considered canon, but it's canon for the game's sake, not the show's sake, I would say. But yeah, Dave Fenoy did a great job. I voted for him for that because of Pietro's involvements in the different parts of the volume. Let's see, best actress in a supporting role. For me, I think it really comes down to Willow. Mama Schnee's introduction, her debut in the series for the first time 7 years in, better late than never, Ruby. You know, I think seeing Mama Schnee for the first time was absolutely fantastic. Getting those little inklings of how the mother was over the years. You know, volume 4, first hearing about she's drinking in the garden. Volume 5, finding out about Weiss's version of her isolation and how the mother was kind of treated by the father as nothing more than an asset to get her last name, to get all that power and prestige. And so I think more than anything, Willow deserves the supporting role, even though she was only in for 1 episode. It was a long time coming for me. So the next category, and this is a very exciting one, best additional vocalist. I will be the first to say, I think this Volume 7 soundtrack is going to be so fucking hype. Based on the fact that we're getting Jeff, we're getting Casey, we're getting Alex Abraham's scores, which I'm actually, personally, I think I'm more looking forward to some of the scores than I am the actual lyrical tracks. Despite the fact of this category, I just want to give a shout out to Alex, because I think he did a phenomenal job with the scores this year alongside Jeff. But we have Jeff, we have Casey, but and we're most likely going to get Lamar snuck into one of these tracks at some point, most likely. But this volume gave so many additional vocalists outside of the norm of what we expected. Santi Si was brought into the song Celebrate, the song that was playing during the initial entrance into the rally.
Party people gonna stay up late. Oh, and celebrate tonight.
Hero and I tonight, so more friends means more fun.
In chapter 6, we have Caleb Hyles, which is probably the song that most people are looking forward to, like the hype track of the soundtrack.
I would die without regret. 14, 13. With zero reservations, I would fly to the sun if that would keep our dream alive. Living you from harm, shelter in my arms, the fear was early fate. No, right now, the plan I made will guide us all. We'll survive this storm.
Being Hero, which was played during the Watts and Ironwood fight. And then we have Adrienne, Dawn, and Erin, who did the maiden quartet, if you will, the 4 vocalist track with Casey for the song War during the Team RWBY versus the Aesop's fight.
Never really had a problem with you. All along I thought our friendship was true. I was kissing you right from the start. I never dreamed that you would be my enemy when I said say
Best vocalist? Damn, this is tough. This is tough for me because it comes down to vocalist, not the song, right? That's another big thing too. When it comes down to these categories, you have to separate the character from the actor. You have to separate the vocalist from the song. You have to separate the character from the situation, or the character from your personal affections or affinities with them. And for this one, it comes down to vocalist. Who performed the best in your opinion? And this is tough for me. It's tough for me to distinguish the two because personally, I think Hero is the best song, but it's sung by Caleb Hyles, and it's the song that I'm most looking forward to, so I just jumped to that category really quick. But personally, I'm a big fan of Santi Si, and that's who I'm voting for. Obviously, there can only be one. And it's so incredibly difficult because I love Adrienne Cohen and Casey's performance on Nevermore. You know, Adrienne has been a returning part of Jeff's group when it comes to the music and the concerts that they've done at RTX. She's done a bunch of songs alongside Casey in that regard. She was officially on the soundtrack last volume with Nevermore. Dawn and Erin, you know, Erin has her own YouTube channel. She does a bunch of covers for RWBY songs and such like that. Dawn M. Bennett was, you know, she did the voice for Elm this volume, and it was really cool to kind of see her get a bit of perspective on that song. And then obviously Casey, Jeff, legends, you know what I mean, like returning basically the staples of the soundtrack. But to me, it really comes down between Caleb Hyles and Santi Si, and they're both great. They both have YouTube channels. They're both really great music, you know, musical individuals when it comes to covers and music in general. But I don't know. I'm really looking forward to Celebrate, and I really think it comes to the fact that Santi Si's voice and his vocal efforts just really came through the most for me. But I am no shadow of a doubt, am I very much looking forward to Hero because of Caleb. So for me, it's going to be Santi Si in that regard. Next, we have Best Leading Male Role. Now again, leading role really comes down to the fact of who really shined the most this volume, right? Who felt like the main character of this volume, even though they're not the main character of the show, right? Ironwood, Oscar, Crow, Watts, Tyrion, Ren, and Jacques. I wouldn't really say Ren so much, but Ren did have a few moments that shined through, you know, with him, you know, arguing here and there with Nora, him yelling at her at the last episode, him becoming like one of Ironwood's yes men, and things of that nature. So Ren kind of really still had moments here and there. That really was to kind of fill in the male category role, outside of just other characters. Like Jean didn't really have that much of a focus. Jean actually wasn't even in one of the episodes. Not to say every character was, but to me, without a doubt, hands down, my opinion, Ironwood. I think Ironwood is like, I'm actually going to go on record saying this. I think I said it in my discussion too, but I think Ironwood is now my favorite RWBY character. Like, no bullshit. Like, I'm not playing around. I think it's too soon to tell. I think I really need the second half of the Atlas arc with Volume 8 to really see his fate. Does he die? Is he immortalized? Does he get redemption? Does he come back to, you know, does he come to his senses? What is he going to become for the Team RWBY and Ozpin and Salem? Is he going to become the antagonist? Is he going to, you know what I mean? Like, what's he going to do? I'm a big fan of psychological development. Psychological thriller is my favorite genre of movies and anime, right? Death Note, Parasite, Future Diary, you know, things like that. Really big fan of, you know, Parasite the Maxim, big fan of psychological thriller. And for Ironwood, seeing how he was in Volume 2 and the inklings of his personality, how he, you know, how him and Ozpin always butted heads, how he was very much like for the people above anything else. He'll do anything and everything he can. And you know what I mean? He's fighting a monster, but to see him slowly become a monster himself was so incredibly fascinating to watch unfold this volume. And it really came around full circle for me when you hear the song Fear, and it kind of puts into perspective everything that you've witnessed this volume from Ironwood. You know what I mean? And he doesn't mean any harm. He's not trying to hurt people. He's just hurting people by the process of his own fear and his own insecurities and his own paranoia, because he wants to do everything he can. So he's kind of taking all of that weight and, you know, bearing it himself. And it's ultimately bringing out a part of him that I don't think even he ever knew would happen. You know what I mean? Becoming the, you know, it's like the infamous quote: you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And for me, I think it was Ironwood this volume, without a doubt. Like, Volume 7 was his volume to kind of see him improve and slowly degrade. You know what I mean? Like, they gave us inklings of that throughout the volume. Every time you thought he was going to get bad, he came back to good. And then ultimately he was like, all right, we're all on the same page. We're trusting each other. The truth is out there. Let's go out there. Let's give it our best. We stopped Watts. We stopped Tyrion. We saved Mantle. And boom, like, Cinder makes her play, and it all just kind of like overlaps on him to where it kind of just changes him psychologically as a character. And I found that the most fascinating part of him out of any characters. If anything, all of these other characters were very consistent and very typical, I would say, of their roles, with the exception of Oscar. I think Oscar really stepped up this volume primarily. Crow as well. Watts was very fascinating and very entertaining to kind of get through as the villain of this arc. And actually, I don't really know who's a better villain now, him or Tyrion, because Tyrion, like, I thought Tyrion reached his ceiling, and then chapter 12 happened, and I'm like, holy shit, I don't know what to expect from this guy. So a lot of great potential for these characters, but for me, definitely going to be Ironwood. Best leading female role. Best leading female role. Let's see. Best leading female role for Volume 7. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. It's between Penny and Winter for me. I would say it's between Penny and Winter. I think all of the other characters, you know, contributed a heavy amount, but especially with how the volume ended and how it was kind of setting up the entire volume, you know, Penny and Winter, Penny being back in chapter 1, Winter being back in chapter 2, and then slowly seeing how both of their characters complemented each other and kind of helped each other develop, but also the fact that they were both incredibly relevant, right? Winter was destined to become the Winter Maiden. Penny kind of wrestling with the feelings of being a robot but also being human, and vice versa for Winter. I think both roles were incredible. I will give this volume... Fuck, this is so difficult. I want to give it, oh my god, dude. I want to give it to both of them. Fuck. I want to give it to Penny, but Winter was so good, man. And it's just because, like, you have to, they leave you off in the middle because you don't really know what comes of that. And I don't know if Winter's gonna have any more of a dynamic role in Volume 8, because I feel like now the puck has been passed to Penny, especially since she became the Maiden. And with that decision that she made to follow through with it, that speaks volumes of her development, I think, this, you know, this volume. No pun intended on the volume thing. Shit. Best leading. I'm gonna give it to Winter. I gotta give it to Winter. I think Penny has the potential to be that for Volume 8, especially because she's the Maiden now, and her fate is now tied to the relic. It's tied to Salem's want of the relic, and it's tied to Ironwood wanting the relic. So I think Penny can have that potential next volume, but I think this only reinforced, I think this more so than anything reinforced and gave a lot of depth to Winter of her as a character, of her identifying and acknowledging her emotions and not letting them get the best of her. You know what I mean? Like, conceal, don't feel, which is kind of a Frozen reference, which kind of comes back along with, you know, her being the Ice Queen, or one of the Ice Queens, which I find really, really ironic. So I'm gonna give that to Winter. I think Penny definitely has the potential to be best female character for next volume. Best supporting male character, I'm gonna give that one to, hold on, actually, let me see. Let me go back up real quick. Didn't I pick Pietro before? Yeah, I did. I picked oh no, I picked Dave Fenoy. Okay. Oh, right. Hold on. Okay, let me double check that. Let's see. Yeah, that's Dave Fenoy. So I really do think it's, I think honestly, to follow up with that, best supporting male character, I'm gonna give that to Clover. I'm gonna give that to Clover. I think Clover, not even just as a category for this entire award ceremony, I think Clover was a great supporting character for Crow. I think that was like the definition of supporting character. It was a character supporting another character in a supporting role, quite literally. Clover, I think, was the best thing to happen to Crow. Unfortunately, I think his death is just going to be it's just gonna validate and reinforce to Crow why he's meant to be alone, why he's not meant to be happy, why bad things will always happen to him, even if good luck is around. And, you know, I think you can chalk his death, he's probably gonna chalk his death to his Clover's death to his semblance, because Clover didn't have aura. That means he didn't have his semblance. So Clover dying had to be a result of Crow's semblance, you know what I mean? And Tyrion being a byproduct of that. So yeah, without a doubt, Clover, he was constantly supporting Crow, giving him words of encouragement, compliments. I really feel bad that all of us suspected him to be a traitor. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of overthink and take things to the extremes in that regard. But I do think Clover was the definitive, like, quintessential supporting character. Supporting someone like Crow in this volume was very, very great to see. And it's unfortunate because I don't really think he'll ever get someone like that again. You know, especially someone who was such, like, there were two sides of the same coin. Good luck, bad luck. You know, pro-huntsman. Characters who got along with each other. You know, a lot of potential was there. And I think it was very deserving of Clover, especially the fact that he died this volume. Also, spoiler alert, don't be watching this if you haven't seen Volume 7. Best supporting female character. Best supporting female character. Maria, Nora, Willow, Fiona, May, Freya. I feel like this is very... Okay, I have a... See, this is the part where I would have picked Penny if we put her in here, because I think Penny was still a very great supporting role, because if she's not the lead role, she would be the follow-up supporting role, because of the fact that she did so well in just being a supporting factor for mainly Winter, also being around for characters like RWBY, because, you know, their development goes all the way back to Volume 1 actually. Yeah, see, like, this is where I would say our nominee process was a little off, and I know why. It was because we put Penny in one category already and we didn't want to put her in too many, that it would feel like a popularity vote. But yeah, I would say, I mean, then again, we put Willow, and I think that's who I'm gonna go with. Nora was also, had a great, you know, a few supporting moments here and there, you know, her standing up to Ironwood, her talking to Ren a few times, the kiss moment, you know what I mean? Like her and Ren's development really flourished. It kind of had its rocky roads here and there, I would say, more than anything this volume. Ren was very apprehensive and aggressive about a lot of things and just on high alert overall, and Nora was kind of like clashing with that a few times. So but damn, man, Willow was so great. Willow was so great. What was Willow's category? Let me just go back to, just want to double check and make sure. Willow. Oh wait, did I not choose Willow? Hold on. Yeah, okay, so I did actress. Okay, so Caitlin Glass, I think she did a great job. Okay, so we're gonna pick Willow for overall character now. All right, we're just gonna go with that one. I think Caitlin Glass did a great job for Willow overall, and then Willow as a character supporting Weiss, basically being the linchpin, the reason why Watts got discovered and why Jacques was brought to justice. And overall, just the mother figure of everything, like her support kind of extends to her kids, and I think that speaks volumes of her supporting factor this volume overall. So let's see, best Aesop: Elm, Vine, Marrow, Clover, Harriet. This is a tough one too, because I don't want to pick Clover again now. You know, what will you guys do without me? Okay, realistically, when you say best Aesop, you would think the leader, right? You know, otherwise it would be what's your favorite Aesop. But let's see, Elm, Vine, Marrow, Clover, Harriet. I feel really bad for Vine Zeki. I think Vine is the black sheep of this squad, unfortunately. Just based on the fact that he's just very, I feel like he's too tranquil, like to the degree that he's just like, he's almost kind of like not in the picture, you know what I mean? Like when you think of the Aesops, I really think Harriet's the fan favorite, Marrow is best boy, Elm is best girl, and well, I guess Harriet would be best girl because she's the favorite, so she's the overall fan favorite. Elm is like the super like OP mega hacks, thunder thighs best girl, and Clover is, you know what I mean, like Clover is Clover because like he's tethered with Crow and what ended up happening to him, you know what I mean? He's the best of the squad overall, but Vine is just there. It's unfortunate. I'm gonna go with Marrow. That's a personal favorite of mine. Marrow's best boy. He's a dog faunus. He's got a dope-ass semblance. I love his weapon, love his fighting style, love how playful and innocent and kind of like the rookie of the Aesops he is. He doesn't take anything too seriously. Out of all of the Aesops as well, he was the one that was like, yo, I really don't want to slug it out. I really don't want to fight these guys. But, you know what I mean? He still had like a bit of sympathy to the fact that he had to follow orders. I did like the fact that he still stuck with fighting them versus straight up like ignoring the rules and abandoning his squad. But yeah, I think Marrow is my favorite. It might be the dog. It might be the dog in him personally, because I do like, I like Elm and Clover a lot too. I'm not a big fan of, I mean, Harriet's okay. I don't know. I don't have a lot of, attachment to her as an overall character. I'm much more like Elm, Marrow, Clover kind of guy. But yeah, definitely giving that one to Marrow. That might not be surprising considering the love that he's got in this volume, you know, being a dog faunus and all that. Best female antagonist, Salem, without a doubt. Chapter 11 established that more than ever. Her introduction at the end of the volume speaks volumes to the fact that I feel like volume 8 is going to be partially hers. You know what I mean? Based on the impact that she's going to have on her cohorts, right? Watts, Tyrion, Cinder, how that impact is going to be felt for characters like Ironwood, who's kind of like become a monster in and of himself, became the antagonist of his own people, became the antagonist of Team RWBY, and what that's going to mean for the characters like RWBY, who found out that Summer had a run-in with Salem, and Ozpin, who's now back and has to deal with finding out how to confront his ex after all this time. So definitely Salem. It was one episode, but it was definitive. It was great. It was awesome. Neo, I'm not gonna give credit that much to Neo because, like, you know, I guess when it comes down to it, she really just had the impact of the fight scene, even though she's been kind of doing espionage this entire volume. It was kind of like a one fight scene deal and Cinder has a lot of work to do if she wants to be best antagonist. I'll give credit where it's due. Loved the fight that she was in, loved Jessica Negru's performance, but Cinder as a character, I would give it to Neil before I give it to Cinder. That's all I'm saying. Best male antagonist. This is a tough one because, and it's a three-way tough one. Not really, it's kind of like a two-way because Ironwood is considered an antagonist now, but that's from chapter 11, right? Yeah, that's basically from chapter 11, and he wasn't in chapter 12, and then by chapter 13 he does that, he pulls the trigger on Oscar, but I feel like that is the beginning of it. I think volume 8 is really going to be telling if he is a true antagonist or if he just did something really fucking crazy, wayward, and stupid out of fear in this volume. So I really think it comes down between Tyrion and Watts, and that's really tough for me because I've been saying this entire volume that I think Watts is going to be my favorite villain, right? He was he's very Machiavellian in nature, right? Very smooth, calm, collected, tactical, meticulous, basically kind of like doesn't waste any energy, gets everything done, drop of a hat. 6 chapters in, right? Does the entire, sequence of framing Penny with Tyrion, and these people still don't know that Watts even exists. And I'm just like, wow, this guy is literally getting the chaos and pandemonium he wants hand over fist. And I'm like, I was just very satisfied with him overall. And then it went to new heights because I thought this man didn't have a weapon. I didn't think Watts could actually throw down and fight. And then he goes up against the general, the headmaster of Atlas, and kind of holds his own to a degree. He gets a little cocky at the end with his rings and like the hard light, shielding thing that he put on his arm. But Watts was really like he was really impressing me. Beyond that, the fact that he had a weapon, if he had a semblance, that would be it for me. Like, he would definitely be number one. And then you clash that with Tyrion. Tyrion has been like all over the volume, killing people stealthily. He had his big moment in chapter 6. And then the 3v1 I thought is where it would be. I'd be like, okay, he did his thing. He left his mark. 3v1, it was great. It didn't last that long, but I guess, it is what it is. And then this man comes back for a 3v1 to a 2v1 to a stealth backstab on Clover. And now I'm thinking to myself, I don't know who my favorite villain is now because they both exceeded my expectations. Very, very, very tough indeed. I think Watt still has potential because he's not dead and he's most likely going to be broken out of prison. And I think he can have a chance to shine next volume, especially if my headcanon theory and something that my friend Brandon brought to my attention was like, Ironwood at this point realized he's going to eventually find out that Penny is a maiden. He has to find a way to subdue her and get her under his control. And, the fact that Watts' whole deal with Ironwood was like Ironwood never appreciated him, never valued his genius. So how crazy would it be if Ironwood, in his current state of fear and panic and antagonism, teams up with Watts to create technology to take down Penny, you know what I mean? Or to bring Penny into custody, you know what I mean? The enemy of my enemy. So that's another big factor too, because Penny's also most likely going to be siding against Ironwood, which isn't going to be great because she's the secret weapon of the kingdom and she's a maiden now. So I think Watts definitely has a lot of potential next volume. I don't want to understate how you can go to any of my reactions or discussions of this volume. I was praising Watts to the heavens the entire volume, but for this one, gotta give it to your boy Tyrion. Like I said, the framing episode, the 3v1, the 1v1v1, the 2v1 with Crow, the fact that he killed Clover, framed Crow, and escaped. Definitely got to give it to Tyrion this volume. Best antagonist of the volume overall. Best new character. So this is for characters who debuted this volume. The Aesops, Robin, the Happy Huntresses, Willow, Pietro, or Freya. This is a tough one too, because there's a lot of great side characters. There's a lot of great new characters, but Freya, for example, May, Fiona, Joanna, these are really like lesser supporting characters that were just in the picture for a scene or two or for an episode or two. But I think the ultimately will be more so, for me at least, will be more so the ones that had more of an impact on the volume than characters who were just there for variety. I'm gonna go with Pietro, and I know I think I voted Pietro all 3 times. No, guys. So I didn't pick Pietro for the supporting. So I picked Dave Fenoy and Pietro for new character. That's ultimately to spread some of the love because I did pick Clover for best supporting character. I picked Marrow for best Aesop overall. So I didn't want to kind of double dip in that regard. Willow I picked for actress and supporting female role. But yeah, Pietro was just a delight this volume. You know what I mean? Like, I think he was great as a new character, in terms of a new character. And my choice for Pietro comes down to the fact that I think Pietro really excelled at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the volume, right? So obviously the beginning, we get introduced to him as the character who is the doctor that fixed Maria's eyes every 10 years or so. That eventually followed up with, holy shit, this is actually Penny's father. And that was kind of like our initial introduction to him as a character. Very earnest, very kind-hearted, you know, finest mind in Atlas, finest heart too. Just a very genuinely nice guy who tries to do his best to help other people, despite his circumstance. Also being the father of Penny was really great to get a reveal of that. The middle transition was after the initial framing of Penny for Tyrion and Watts' act at the rally. And that was where we got the additional backstory and development of Penny's origins and Pietro's fate being tethered to Penny's creation, of him giving his aura to her creation overall. Also understanding how the Penny Project came to be, and the I guess what basically fueled Arthur Watts' revenge and vendetta, because Pietro's decision and choice for the defense force was chosen over his. And then towards the end, I would say the ending was very I think Pietro kind of had somewhat of an additional supporting role towards the end, simply due to the fact that he was around at the end with Maria, you know, helping Team RWBY, reestablishing communications, being happy of the fact that his daughter was happy with RWBY and with Weiss after the fact of her getting the maiden powers. So I think Pietro shined far more as a supporting role over the course of the volume, whereas most of these characters, like Osmond, came in the last episode. Whitley was only around when we were at the Schnee Manor. Clover, I think Clover shined here and there, bits and pieces, but now, you know what I mean, like his role was kind of led up to the end of chapter 12. But I think Pietro as new character was definitely quite fulfilling, and I enjoyed him whenever he was on screen. Now let's see, best new character design. So this comes down to new outfits. Salem's outfit in the end of the volume. Okay, so really quick fun fact, this is kind of like a behind the scenes for how we set up this poll process, how we set up this entire thing. I did not want Watts on this list. And the reason I didn't want him on the list and why Kaylin put him on the list is because technically he had a new outfit because he was wearing that stylish coat in chapter 2 when he was in the rain, walking through the streets of Mantle. And I told Kaylin that, I was like, Kaylin, that doesn't constitute as an outfit. That's literally outerwear. That's a jacket. That's something he wore in one episode, and that was it. But she was very adamant about having it in there. So for those of you who are wondering, like, why is Watts in here? It's because of his like Prada jacket and his Gucci bag, essentially. But yeah, I just thought it was funny. Obviously it's still included in there. It's not a big deal. Like I said, it wasn't like we were arguing about it. It was just something that I was just like, Kaylin, no. And she was like, but Arnold, it's a jacket. So yeah, so Watts for his jacket, and then everyone else on this list basically had new getup, new haircut, new outfits, new duds, and all that kind of stuff. And it really just comes down to, who do you think rocked it the best? Who do you think had the best design? That's a tough one for me, honestly. I really liked Ruby's overall outfit. I know it's very much like the same. I think when we first saw the outfits of Team RWBY at RTX, I think I was the least impressed with Ruby's because of the fact that it was just so similar, whereas all of the other characters were drastic changes from their hair to their outfits. But like, I think Ruby's overall like meshed the best for me this volume. If you go back and look at RWBY in any other volume, she looks so different without that hair. I actually prefer her volume 7 haircut far more than the other ones now that she has a haircut. I love her outfit overall. She's got the shorts, she's got like the mesh, like the arm mesh, She has like the little like ammo pouch on her side with a little Zwei sticker on it. I think that's adorable. I also really like Penny's. Penny basically got a new model. You know what I mean? Like her entire character is different. She's got rocket boots, she's got long hair, she's got a nicer dress. She looks incredible. Like she doesn't have the backpack on her back anymore. Like the blades are actually embedded like within the back section of her model overall. And I think she's like rocking like the Mega Man Astro. She's got like Mega Man Astro Boy vibes that I'm a huge fan of. And yeah, it's really tough. Like overall design, I think I will actually give it to Penny. I think Winters and Ironwoods are very similar overall to their previous outfits. They're just kind of variants, more than completely different designs. Crow's I kind of feel is in that same category. It's nothing that I feel like he wouldn't have worn. I think the characters that had the most drastic changes to their ensemble was Weiss. Yeah, I think Weiss in particular, I think Weiss's was the most drastically changed of everyone. Blake, also, if you want to consider the fact that she's wearing like a one-piece cat suit. Jean, I think with his hair, Weiss with her hair, Weiss with the entire like ensemble, the multiple belts, like she's looking like Saber out of Fate, and all that stuff. But I think between Penny and it came down really for me between Penny and RWBY, and I think I liked Penny's overall, just like I said, the Astro Boy vibes and the fact that she's kind of changed from head to toe. Like her entire identity is changed after Beacon. So I'm gonna go with that. So we're rounding off to like the last 5 categories here. We're about an hour into the video, so hopefully this is just ultimately, I just hope this is very fulfilling and entertaining for you guys to kind of get my thought process on the volume. I think this is gonna be the closest thing that I do to a video like this of my thoughts of the volume, in the form of the Oscars voting process. Let's see. So now we have Best Song. And this is gonna be a fun one because I love Trust Love so much so that I sang the song every week from chapter 2 to the finale. I made a massive compilation video of all of those singing moments in perfect synergy that a lot of people enjoyed, and I can't wait to hear the full version of it. Fear is out in full, so I know Fear is included in this song category, but I'm not gonna include it in my like I'm gonna pretend Fear's not even there because I'm literally like a Fear stan. Like I've been listening to that song nonstop since the volume has ended, and like it has lyrics out right now. There are a few channels with the lyrics of the song out, and I love the song so much. It says so much about the volume overall, about Salem's motives, about Ironwood's deterioration of a character, like psychologically, which I find, again, like I said, fascinating. It's one of the reasons why I feel like he's become my favorite character now. But the song is out in full, and we really don't have to wait for it to get it. If anything, all of these other songs are like, what's your favorite song, or what song are you looking forward to hearing the full version of? That's how I interpret this category, for me at least. So we have Touch the Sky, Brand New Day, and on top of that, 9 songs on the soundtrack. That's an all-time high for the series, not including an acoustic and eventually, you know, some of the remixes that we get like previous volumes. So Trust Love, the opening, Touch the Sky, which was the song during the landing strategy.
Looked in the mirror. It's been a long, long time since I felt this way. Right now, I'm just a bit surprised, 'cause I feel just fine, and I might just touch the sky.
Brand New Day, which was the montage.
Eyes up, Huntsman. Time to get used to the new normal in Atlas. Your top priority is Amity Tower. That means protecting supply runs from Grimm and bandits, and protecting the site itself. Diverting all construction resources to Amity Tower means there are going to be gaps in Mantle's defenses against Grimm. They'll need help on the perimeter.
Hey, have you two ever thought about branching out a little? You always pair up, but I don't know if your styles really...
But nothing's wrong.
really, really good stuff. Yeah, keep it up. Single file line.
But there's still plenty to do in Mantle itself.
Yeah. Oh, another casserole.
I think you'll find everyone appreciates having a huntsman around.
It's totally the haircut.
You're, of course, free to enjoy your time off as you see fit. Whatever helps you take the edge off.
Like a brand new day. I've been waking late to a show.
The huntsman around you can be an invaluable resource, if you're willing to pay attention.
Have you ever thought about extending your aura?
But make no mistake, school's over. You get to choose what type of huntsman or huntress you are. So, what's it gonna be?
Celebrate when they went to the rally. Let's Get Real was the song that sung when Ren and Nora kissed.
Don't worry, it's in the bag.
Ren, what's going on? Why won't you just talk to me?
You know, I've never been really good with talking.
Then screw talking.
Hero was the Watts and Ironwood fight. War was Team RWBY versus the Aesops. And Until the End was during Ozpin's monologue.
It's funny then that as common as fear is, we so easily underestimate its power.
All memories are dark and light is fading. We try
Are you alright? Penny, what happened? She's
but what are we
gone.
No,
losing all our strength? How
she's a part of you now.
more time
Fear of growing close to someone,
falls away.
the subsequent fear of loss,
The pain always
fear of failure,
finds a way to stay. The tears that you've shed may
Where's
find
Oscar?
a tree
And the relic?
and as more people depend on you,
when you're stronger.
those fears can take on greater power.
Promise I'll be here until the end. I promise I'll be here until the end.
I gotta give it to Hero. Because my follow-up from Hero would be Celebrate, to be honest. And that's also Santi Si, and I gave Santi Si credit for being my favorite vocalist this volume, and I wanted to separate that from the song that he was in. So for this one, definitely the song Hero. I would say the Ironwood's theme, Ironwood song sung by Caleb Hale. So I'm gonna give slight credit to Caleb for this category, even though it's more so the song than the vocalist, because I think this is the hype song of the volume that most people are indeed gonna be voting for. So I'm gonna do that. Best fight. I think this volume had the most fights in the entire series of RWBY within a volume itself. Team RWBY versus RWBY and Juniper versus the Sabers, the Aesops versus the Geist, Team Juniper versus Team Funky, Blake and Yang versus Robin in the Alleyway, the Grim Invasion, Watts versus Ironwood, Clover Crow and Robin versus Tyrion, Team RWBY versus the Aesops, Clover versus Tyrion versus Crow, so the 3v1 that then became a 2v1, Juniper versus Neo, and Cinder versus Penny and Winter. Every single one of these fights was such a spectacle. I think this volume at this point, I think for most people, they will say they can. I think we can definitively say if this is going to be the standard moving forward, I don't think we have anything to worry about with fights moving forward. I know Volume 4 and Volume 5 had a lot of critiques and a lot of criticism thrown at them for the physics and just the floatiness of combat and just like the lack of complex or even entertaining choreography, and rightfully so, you know what I mean, especially since Monty was at the helm for the most part with Volumes 1 and 2 and the contributions that he gave during Volume 3 before his passing. But I also do think that Volume 6 was a big step up overall that I really enjoyed, but there were so many 1v1 person-to-person fights, not necessarily grim fights, and I think that's what we got mostly in Volume 6 was a lot of grim fights. Volume 4, I will say the fight that excelled the most, or the fight that a lot of people really like praised the most during that volume, was Tyrion versus Crow, which was a really great fight. Volume 5 would be Sun versus Ilya, especially with the gunchucks returning. Volume 6, Maria versus Talk, which was another human-to-human fight. But this volume gave us so many Grimm versus human fights and human versus human fights. To me, my favorite fight, Watts versus Ironwood, hands down without a doubt. The environment, the music, the choreography, the creative ways of using the environment to the advantage, like the geysers, the gravity shifting, all that stuff. The camera did most of the work of that fight, which was phenomenal. The music that was playing complemented the fight as well. The fact that I wasn't expecting much out of Watts in terms of being a fighter, the fact that he had a weapon, it all did it for me with this fight. Not to take credit away from any of the other fights, because I loved every fight that Tyrion was in. A lot of the Grimm fights were great. I would say more so than any of the Geist fight with the Aesop, seeing how they seeing how they contributed and how they performed for the first time was awesome in chapter 3. The Saber fight in the first episode, that's what we saw at RTX for the first time, so that was a big treat. Cinder versus Penny and Winter was a great way to cap off like the last big major action scene of the volume. And there's just so much. There's absolutely so much to kind of compliment and talk about, but Watts versus Ironwood was my personal favorite. It's the fight that I constantly go back and rewatch. The gravity dust that's taken into consideration with Ironwood's weapons, the fact that he has 2 dual processes, so I think that's pretty cool as well. But yeah, it's gonna be Ironwood versus Watts for me. Best new Grimm. We got 5 new Grimm types this volume, which was absolutely crazy. We have the Saber, which is the saber-toothed tiger Grimm, the Sentinels, which are those centipede Grimm, the Megaliath, which is I assume the distant cousins of the Goliaths from Volume 2, the Terrarax, which is the pterodactyl Grimm, and we just dubbed the last one Whale, like the big monstro Moby Grimm looking like Whalord, like shiny Dynamax Whalord Grimm at the end of the volume that's sailing in with Salem, which I assume that's also a Pinocchio reference, Monstro swallowing Pinocchio and Geppetto being Penny and Pietro following, during the events of the Pinocchio film. So I am going to give it to the Sabers, believe it or not. I know that they're cannon fodder. I know that they just come and go by the dozens, and they're not as dope or as hype as the Terrarax, or as plentiful as, or as like crazy over the top as the Whale Grimm. I'm just a big fan of like the saber-toothed tiger design, and I think the design of those Grimm are the most entertaining out of all of them. I would give it to the Terrarax, but we only saw the Terrarax really excel in chapter 10 or chapter 11? I think it was chapter 10. And then after that episode, they just became fodder. Like, they just became not that entertaining or special. I also want to give it to the Sabers because they're the first new Grimm type that we saw this volume. But I think they're super dope. I love their overall look, their overall design. My follow-up would definitely be the Terrarax, but I'll definitely give it to the Sabers for now. Let's see, moving on from there. Best new semblance. A lot of new semblances this volume. I would not be able to have told you. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 new semblances. So we got we got 3 from the Happy Huntresses, we got 5 from the Aesops, and we got Tyrions. I don't know what option 10 is there. That might have just been a typo of some sort. I have no clue what that is or what was supposed to be there. But anyways, we have Robin's lie detector, Fiona's like palm in her palm pocket, like being able to take anything and like basically break it down in the palm of her hand, May's invisibility, Clover's good luck, Marrow's stay, Harriet's speed, Elm's root, Vine's aura extension, and Tyrion's aura breaking technique that he used on Fiona and tried to use on Clover in chapter 12. This one is going to be very easy for me. I would say the one that's the most intriguing, but also the one that was the most exciting for me to see, especially time and time again, and that is Marrow's stay. Stay is super broken. I guess in some cases it's not completely broken because it takes a huge toll on Marrow, especially considering the fact that he didn't really take all that much damage against Weiss in the fight, in his fight against Weiss in chapter, what was it, chapter 12. But the fact of the matter is, like, he used it once on Weiss, he used it once on the on her summon, and then he was kind of like drained, and then he just got one shot by the fireballs and was out for the count. No aura, knocked out. And I think that really is like with great power comes great, like, there's like a big price to pay for that, which is a lot of aura, a lot of probably mental strain, similar to how Emerald Semblance works, where she, you know, one mind she can handle, but two or more is a stretch. And it's I don't really even know the fundamentals of how it works. Like, is it like stopping time in a fixed area? Like, is the person that you stop like conscious of what's happening, the fact that they're frozen in time and they can't move? Like, it's like a temporal type of ability, which is super fucking crazy. It honestly reminds me of the meta's temporal displacement, or technically Reggie's temporal displacement from Red versus Blue. That's what it kind of reminds me of. But anyways, I'm definitely gonna go with Marrow. And this is it, the last one. We are over an hour into this video, so hopefully it was entertaining the whole way through. Like I said, hopefully you guys have been going through this with me. The link will be in the description if you guys haven't taken part in the poll process just yet. But moving forward with this, we have the best shipping scene. Now, I will be the first to tell you, your boy don't give a damn about ships. I'm not a shipper. I've never really been one. I have no problem with people who are shippers, and I've definitely been in my fair share of tussles when it comes to you know, being petty about ships in the past, you know, during the earlier volumes, and kind of not really understanding the big deal about ships. But ultimately, I respect people who kind of see this as a fun, entertaining, harmless outlet for the show. I know some people don't. Unfortunately, those people are those people. But I'm not really all that big into ships. However, I will partake in this for the sake of it. Another thing that I do want to say by the end of this, you are not, it is not like, you don't have to answer any of these if you don't want to. So I know some people aren't into shippings, but none of these questions are mandatory, right? It's not like, oh, you are required to answer this. Like, you don't have to answer any of these if you don't want to. So if this applies to you, definitely go for it, but don't feel like you have to. As for me, because I'm not too big into shipping, which in essence comes down to like fantasy shipping, like fantasy characters that you want to be together or get together or whatever, I'm gonna stick to what's canon, and that is Ren and Nora's kiss. The Renora ship has officially sailed, right? And all of these are very particular. I was talking to Kaylin about it, and I was like, Kaylin, why would you ship Ironwood and Crow? Like, where's your line of logic? And then she kind of added these additional moments to kind of give context, right? Ironwood and Crow hugging in the second chapter, Clover and Crow, you know, fair game. Ren and Nora's kiss, Blake and Yang being the biggest, I think, the most popular of the RWBY ships. Ruby and Oscar's awkwardness, I believe that was chapter 9. Pietro and Maria, when Pietro mentioned that Maria was taking care of him, he would have collapsed by now. Penny and Ruby, who has been, you know, the ship was sailing up until volume 3, it crashed and burned, and then it kind of resurrected this volume. Watts versus Ironwood was a bit of a stretch that I told Kaylin, but she was like, it's evidence, you know, I gave you everything you could have wanted. Fiona and Robin, which I thought was really cute. Winter and Cinder, which I'm not too big on, or I'm not too understanding of, and then also Cinder versus Neo. But like I said, I think Ren and Nora was the ship that I felt that meshed the most. It's I guess canonical. They're together. This has been 7 volumes in the making, and it's finally happened. So those are all of my votes, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, the Oscars are officially wrapped up for me. Submit, and let's see. Submit response. You can only submit once. Yes, submit. All right, the Oscars, your response will be recorded. And now if I were to refresh this page and go back here, it actually says you've already submitted only 1 form per applicant. So you would have to switch your Google account to a different Google account if you wanted to do more than 1 vote, but that would be skewing the polls, so please don't do that. With all of that said, however, that is going to do it. That is going to conclude the video. I was not expecting to go for the last hour, to be quite honest with you. This was mainly, I was hoping to just get through each of them individually, but then kind of getting into the thought process of everything was still fun and exciting to kind of give you my take on what choice I made, why I decided to make it, and give it whatever context you guys would have needed for it. Like I said, that took me an hour to go through, so I feel like for some people, like I said, reading some of the comments and the responses that people have given, like on Reddit and on the YouTube community tab, there were a lot of people that were like, honestly, this was a lot harder than I thought it was, because you have so many options, right? And you really have to do a process of elimination and really narrow it down to what was my favorite moment of this, what was the best moment of that, who was the best character, what was the best fight, what was the best scene, what's the best song, what's the best Aesop, semblances and all that stuff, you know what I mean? So it's an overall process that takes a bit of time to kind of go through before you can get your definitive answer. And I hope you guys ultimately just enjoyed this entire voting process. I'm going to try to get this up on Monday morning, which means by the time you see this, you will have a little over 24 hours to vote for the process if you haven't already. This is mostly a call to action for most people who haven't seen that this voting poll is out and about, and for people who want to kind of take part and, you know, let their voice be heard. Like I said, the results will be announced after Tuesday when the voting polls close at 11 p.m. Eastern, maybe a day or 2 after, so Caitlin can do a follow-up video, and she's going to showcase all of the pie charts that showcase all of the total amount of applicants and who everyone voted for. So you won't only see who won, you'll see how they fared against the other options, and that will be up on her channel, Cochran, the Cochran YouTube channel. I'll leave a link in the description for that as well, and I'll let people know on like social media, my YouTube community tab, Twitter and stuff like that, when that official video goes up, so you guys can check out the process for yourself. But that's gonna do it for me. I'm actually like really winded from this video. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to kind of go through this entire thing all on my own in one go, but it was fun. I enjoyed doing it. I got my official votes in. You guys know my thoughts on the volume for the most part. And with all of that said, that's going to do it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the first video of many for the hiatus. And until next time, I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care.